Have you ever wondered why some people genuinely prefer being alone? Why they don't feel the need to constantly be around others? Why solitude feels like home to them instead of a punishment? Maybe you've met someone like this, someone who disappears for days. Not because they're sad, not because they're antisocial, but because being alone brings them clarity, focus, and peace. Or maybe, deep down, you're that person too. In a world where constant socializing is seen as normal, where people are expected to be loud, outgoing, always on, those who enjoy solitude are often misunderstood. They're called weird, distant, aloof, when, in reality, their mind just works differently. Today, we dive into the psychology of people who genuinely like being alone, not because they're depressed, not because they're avoiding life, but because solitude is where they become the best version of themselves. 1. They don't fear silence. They need it. Most people run from silence. They put on music, scroll endlessly, talk just to fill the empty space. But people who enjoy being alone, silence is where they think clearly. Their mind is naturally deep. So when the world gets loud, their thoughts get blurry. Being alone isn't loneliness for them. It's mental oxygen. They don't drown in silence. They breathe in it. You'll notice something about people who like solitude. They don't jump into conversations just to say something. They speak when they have something meaningful to add, not when they feel pressured. To them, listening is intelligence. Observing is awareness. Speaking without purpose feels exhausting. This is why they enjoy being alone, because solitude frees them from the noise of meaningless conversations and gives their mind space to process the world deeply. 3. Their self-worth doesn't depend on social validation. They don't need constant attention. They don't need approval. They don't need people to validate their choices. It's not arrogance. It's independence. They've learned that real confidence comes from within, not from being liked, admired, or praised. Being alone gives them the freedom to be themselves fully, without adjusting their personality to fit in. 4, they get emotionally drained easily, not because they hate people, but because their mind works in layers. They absorb others' emotions. They feel deeply. They notice small shifts in tone, body language, energy, and that takes effort. Solitude helps them reset, recover, and come back with a clearer emotional state. Without that recovery time, they feel overwhelmed. 5. They value depth over quantity in everything. Deep connections over many connections. Deep conversations over small talk. Deep work over busy work. Deep meaning over shallow pleasure. This is why they protect their time fiercely. They know spreading themselves too thin makes life feel empty. And solitude helps them stay aligned with what truly matters. 6. They're highly self-aware. People who enjoy being alone spend a lot of time in their own mind, reflecting, analyzing, questioning, understanding. They know their flaws, their strengths, their patterns, also their wounds. And this awareness makes them calmer, more grounded, more intentional. Unlike many who escape their thoughts, these people confront them. They don't fear their inner world. They explore it. 7. They prefer authenticity over performance. In big social environments, people often act differently to be accepted. Louder, funnier, more energetic. But people who like solitude don't play roles. They don't adjust themselves to please others, and they don't want to pretend. So being alone feels relaxing because there's no mask, no persona, no expectations, just them as they are. 8. They are independent thinkers. These people don't follow trends blindly. They question everything. They form their own beliefs. They seek truth rather than popularity. Solitude protects this independence. When they're alone, there's no influence, no pressure, no noise. They can think freely, decide freely, and act freely. 9. They're not afraid of missing out. They're afraid of wasting time. Most people chase everything, every event, every trend, every invitation. But those who enjoy solitude don't fear missing out. They fear spending their energy on things that don't matter. They choose peace over popularity, purpose over attention, growth over entertainment. To them, time is the most valuable currency, and solitude helps them use it wisely. 10. Their loneliness is chosen, not forced. There's a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. People who love solitude feel full, not empty. They can sit in a room by themselves and feel connected to their thoughts, their dreams, their purpose. Loneliness is when you desire people who aren't there. Solitude is when you enjoy yourself even when no one is there. And that's the beauty of their psychology. Here's the truth. People who enjoy being alone aren't broken. They're not cold. They're not strange. They're not avoiding life. They've simply mastered something most people never do. The power of being comfortable with themselves. They don't fear solitude because they've built a world inside their mind that is rich, meaningful, peaceful, and deeply fulfilling. They don't need loud environments to feel alive. They don't need crowds to feel worthy. They don't need constant attention to feel valuable. They've found strength in stillness, clarity in silence, and identity in independence. And ironically, these are the people who often build the deepest relationships because they don't chase people. They choose them carefully. So if you're someone who loves being alone, don't let society convince you that something is wrong with you. It might just mean you have a rich inner world, a sharp mind, a strong sense of self, and a level of emotional maturity that others haven't reached yet. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's space. Space to grow, to think, to breathe, to become who you truly are. And sometimes, being alone isn't a weakness. It's a sign that you've reached a level of self-awareness that most people never discover. People who enjoy solitude are often misunderstood. But when you look deeper, you begin to see that their mindset is not cold, not distant, not detached. It's intentional. Their relationship with themselves is strong enough that they don't need constant external noise to feel whole. And that psychology shapes almost every part of their life. 11. They recharge internally, not externally. Most people recharge through socializing, hanging out, being in groups, sharing energy. But those who love solitude, their battery works differently. Their mind recharges in quiet environments, soft moments, spaces where nothing demands their attention. Maybe a long walk alone, or sitting in a cafe with headphones off, or being in their room with the door slightly closed. That's not isolation. That's restoration. To them, solitude is not a retreat from the world. It's preparation for it. 12. They have a high level of introspection. People who prefer alone time often think on multiple layers. Their thoughts don't stop at the surface. They ask themselves, what am I feeling? Why am I reacting this way? What does this mean for me long term? They analyze instead of panic. They reflect instead of lash out. They understand instead of judge. This introspective nature makes them better decision makers, better partners, better friends, better humans. And solitude is their mental laboratory, a space where they dissect life without interruption. 13. They're comfortable with their imperfections. When you spend a lot of time with yourself, you learn something powerful. You can't hide from your flaws. And people who enjoy solitude know this. They've seen their weaknesses, their quirks, their triggers, their emotional patterns. And instead of running from them, they embrace them. They don't pretend. They don't perform. They don't force perfection. Being alone has taught them that self-acceptance is real power. 14. They are selective with relationships. Extremely selective. It's not that they dislike people, they just know the difference between presence and connection. They don't entertain shallow bonds. They don't chase low-effort friendships. They don't date out of loneliness. They don't stay in circles that drain them. Because when you enjoy being alone, you're no longer afraid to walk away. Solitude gives them standards. It sharpens their intuition. It exposes who truly deserves access to them. And that selectiveness is not arrogance, it's awareness. 15. They think independently, but sometimes too independently. People who enjoy solitude have their own internal compass. They don't follow trends just because they're trends. They don't agree with opinions just to blend in. They don't adopt beliefs without dissecting them. This makes them original thinkers, but also makes others uncomfortable. Because independent minds challenge group comfort, group narratives, group expectations. Their solitude protects their intellectual freedom. They don't get lost in collective noise because they've never relied on it. 16. They're not emotionally cold, they're emotionally filtered. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. People assume solitude means you can't handle emotions, or that you don't feel deeply, but it's the opposite. They feel emotions intensely, so intensely that they need time to process them alone. They don't explode, they don't project, they don't treat people like emotional dumpsters. Their solitude gives them space to calm down, think clearly, and respond instead of react. This emotional filtering makes them stable, consistent, and trustworthy. 17. They don't chase external stimulation. Other people constantly need something new. New plans, new drama, new entertainment, new noise, new distractions. But people who love being alone can sit with themselves with nothing and feel completely fine. Their mind generates its own stimulation. Ideas, reflections, dreams, projects, stories, thoughts. They're never bored because their inner world keeps them alive. This is why solitude doesn't scare them. It fascinates them. 18. They choose peace over popularity. Some people prefer to be liked, even if it means sacrificing their values. But people who like solitude, they don't want to be liked. They want to be aligned. They choose peace over approval, quality over quantity, authenticity over attention, truth over trends. Solitude teaches them that the world's noise is temporary, but inner peace is priceless. 19. They're often the most loyal people you'll ever meet. When people who enjoy solitude choose you, they choose you wholeheartedly because they don't let many people in. Their circle is small, but their loyalty is strong. They value your presence, your time, your energy. Because they don't bond out of convenience, they bond out of connection. And that connection is deep, rare, and long-lasting. And lastly, they have a rich inner world, richer than most people realize. People assume solitude means emptiness, but for these individuals, it's the opposite. Their inner world is full full of ideas, full of imagination, full of meaning, full of reflection, full of dreams, full of understanding. They don't need a crowd to feel alive, because they carry an entire universe inside their mind. Here's the truth. People who enjoy solitude are not anti-human, antisocial, or emotionally distant. They're simply people who have discovered something rare, a sense of inner completeness that doesn't depend on others. They don't fear being alone because they understand themselves deeply. And when you understand yourself, you're no longer lost when the world gets quiet. Society often tells you that you must always be around others, that being alone is strange, that wanting space means something is wrong. But ask yourself, isn't it strange that people fear their own company? Isn't it strange that silence makes most people uncomfortable? Isn't it strange that solitude is seen as a weakness, when it's actually the birthplace of growth? People who love being alone have mastered what most people avoid: sitting with their thoughts, facing their emotions, understanding their patterns, healing their wounds, learning their identity, building their own stability. They aren't running away from the world. They just don't let the world control their inner peace. And here's the deeper truth. When you enjoy solitude, you become stronger in every relationship because you don't enter them out of fear or desperation or emptiness. You enter them from fullness. You enter them because you want to give, not because you need to take. This is why people who love solitude often love the deepest, care the most sincerely, connect the most authentically. They know the value of presence because they're comfortable without it. They don't manipulate because they have nothing to prove. They don't cling because they don't fear being alone. They don't force relationships because they know peace matters more than company. And ironically, these people are the ones others trust the most because solitude teaches clarity, patience, emotional maturity, intuition, self-respect, independence. Traits that society desperately lacks. So, if you're someone who enjoys your quiet space, your own time, your personal world, I want you to understand something. You're not strange, you're not broken, you're not avoiding life. You're simply living at a different depth. A depth where you can hear your own thoughts. A depth where your emotions make sense. A depth where your identity is not shaped by crowds. A depth where your peace is more valuable than attention. A depth where solitude is not loneliness, but liberation. And that depth is a gift that helps you grow, heal, think, create, understand, and become who you're meant to be. So don't let society shame you for loving solitude. Only insecure people mock what they don't understand. Your ability to enjoy your own company is a sign of emotional intelligence, psychological strength, and genuine inner stability. Because when you can walk alone, you can walk anywhere. When you can stand without applause, you can rise without permission. When you are at peace by yourself, you are unstoppable. So keep valuing your space, your boundaries, your quiet moments, your solitude. It's not a weakness, nor it is a flaw. It's also not a red flag. It's a reflection of a mind that is alive, a heart that is aware, and a soul that understands itself deeply. The world may never fully understand people like you, but that's okay, because the goal was never to be understood. The goal was to be whole.